Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's Mike D here, man. I'm checking in with you guys, and you know what? I really wanted to cover a topic. It's actually kind of a follow-up topic. So it came across my timeline yesterday that YouTube has named 50 Cent number one rapper out of New York with nearly what is it 2 billion streams. Um, I did a show about a week or so ago, or whenever it was, and I was covering the fact that Billboard was ranking the top. No, it's Rolling Stone. Excuse me, Rolling Stone. Sorry, Billboard. We'll get you another time. Rolling Stone was ranking the top albums of the 21st century, and then we were breaking down all of the hip hop albums that were in the selection. And long story short, 50 Cent's "Get Rich or Die Tryin" was named the 40th best hip hop album of the 21st century. I'm here to tell you, and I wasn't going to do this before, but I'm stepping into my role as grassroots hip hop anchorman, and I went and did the research, went and did the analytics. I'm here to tell you, you may like certain hip hop albums better than Get Rich or Die Tryin' in the 21st century, but I'm here to tell you, and everybody out there, Get Rich or Die Tryin' by 50 Cent is the greatest hip hop album of the 21st century. And I'm going to give you 10 reasons why. First things first, and I want to start here, man. Like, do I like Supreme Clientele by Ghostface more than Get Rich or Die Tryin'? Sure. I may even say Commons B. Possibly. You know what? As a personal listen, yes. But when I list all of these things out that Get Rich or Die Tryin' brings to the table, you'll be hard pressed and damn near impossible to find another hip hop album that we could say did this. So let me start at number 10. Number 10, I got Commercial Impact. Now we know that Get Rich or Die Tryin' sold 12 million records worldwide, but it did over 800,000 units the first week. And this is back in those days where you actually had to go to the store and purchase them. It's no streams. And we're talking about now, what, nearly 20, what we're at, 22 years later, he's at 2 billion streams. He was killing it in that era, and we're speaking to longevity at this point. 22 years later, we're in the streaming era, and in the physical era, did 12 million on this album and did over 800,000. And it's not just about the numbers. Again, we're going to talk about everything that this thing encompasses. Core hip hop impact. Now, my number 9 is going to be core hip hop impact, and number 10 is going to be, the commercial impact. The core hip hop impact that Get Rich or Die Tryin' had upon its release was the fact that 50 Cent set the groundwork with his mixtapes. Was he the first to do mixtapes? No. But I do think that he is very impactful in where mixtapes continue to go and where mixtapes grew from that point. Because it showed labels, it showed artists that, you know what, you can get yourself bubbling with mixtapes and then transition over to the album. And transition over to the album successfully. Once 50 Cent successfully transitioned from mixtape mode to the album and its success, you saw everybody who wasn't putting out mixtapes before starting to put out more mixtapes. It was snippet projects before where they would give you snippets of, pieces of the album. After 50 Cent did what he did, artists were like, yo, I need to put mixtapes out in the street and lead up to the album. And we see that impact is still in the game. Number 8, hit singles. In the Club. What else can I say, man? In the Club was number 1 for 9 consecutive weeks on Billboard. It was keeping songs like R. Kelly's Ignition remix out of the number 1 spot. But, I mean, you guys know how big In the Club is. I don't even have to speak to the level of impact that a record like In the Club has. It still gets played heavily today. 21 Questions. It was number 1 for 4 weeks, featuring Nate Dogg. Rest in peace to Nate Dogg. 21 Questions was another hit record off of there. PIMP, another hit record off of there. That's a gold single on an album that's 12 million records sold, 12 times platinum rather. So yeah, it had hit singles, all of that. Hit singles, impact commercially, impact from on the street level, and then on my number 7 reason why is it had street singles too. It had Wankster. It had What Up Gangster. It had Many Men. It had records like Your Life Is on the Line. And countless other street records too. Like, this was a tour de force in how to make an album. in this era, in the 21st century, if you will. And that's why I will give it that crown. Now, number 6, you got the battle. So the battle's still in place. Everybody talks about how important the battle is in hip hop and in hip hop culture. Even though 50 and Ja had a very trepidatious relationship and seemed to still have that, the record Back Down was very important in that battle. That was really, for a lot of people, that was the nail in the coffin there. And for such a successful career like a Ja Rule, to have a record like Back Down that's not even really pushed as a single, to be that impactful, that record has that too. That album has that too. Excuse me, guys. Number 5, straight bangers with no fillers. We always talk about what great albums bring to the table. Sometimes great albums are albums that give you just straight bangers. Some albums, they're great that actually follow a sequence and tell a story. This album did a bit of both. You had something for everybody on this album. High All the Time is not even a record that really, would even hit the radio airways. But that was a record people were playing in the streets. You got, again, What Up Gangsta in there. You got Life Is on the Line in there. You got Patiently Waiting in there. You got, it's so much on there, and from end to end. Even records that may have been slightly weaker to some were stronger to others. Because I say all the time, like, I really wasn't a big fan of, a record with Buck. People are like, man, that was my shit. So yeah, end to end bangers. Number 4, it represented every region of hip hop. 50 being from New York, that was already like, East Coast, boom, got that. 50 was coming with really like I don't want to say a Southern drawl, but to some extent, he had like a Southern approach when it came to his hooks, his cadences, and a lot of that was the slur from, the bullet and all of those things, but it worked in his favor because down here, and you see I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, down here, we was fucking with 50 because 50 was, he sounded to some degree like us, and he had Buck there. And then for more East Coast reinforcement, he had Banks there. And then for the Midwest, he got Eminem over here. And for the West Coast, you got Dre over here. So every region was represented on this project, and it really helped to become the tour de force that it was and that it is. And then number 3, set the standard for debut albums in the 2000s. It's the biggest event of debut album that I feel like we saw in the 2000s, but I do see that the documentary followed that path, right? I do see when the Carter 3 dropped, I think that the momentum and the anticipation followed that path. Once again, Wayne was going off of the mixtapes, you know what I'm saying? The dedication to building up to the Carter 3 and building up to the big moment. Get Rich or Die Tryin set that tone in the modern era. It set the tone for what blockbuster albums were going to be from here on out. And you could go on and on and on. It set that tone in the modern era. Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for that either. I have no reason. I have no idea why. I have no idea why any publication who's covered music in the 21st century could even slight 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Tryin in the slightest. And number 2, incredible features and incredible production from end to end. We got Dr. Dre producing on there. We got, Elizondo doing what he did on there. Eminem's features on there were great. Lloyd Banks' feature on there was great. Even Yayo being introduced to the world. Nate Dogg being, I won't say introduced, Nate Dogg holding down, doing what he normally does. It introduced the world to G-Unit, who went on to be extremely successful just months later with the G-Unit project. And then after that, with the solo albums that Yayo, Banks, and Buck put out, Tongue Tied. Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, Tony Yayo, and it built the foundation for what that G-Unit dynasty would become. All of that starts with this album. Everyone's introduced on there. And when Eminem got on this album, you guys know I'm not the biggest Eminem fan out there. He showed up. He delivered. Dr. Dre delivered on the production that Dr. Dre set forth. And my number one reason why Get Rich or Die Tryin is the greatest hip hop album of the 21st century is it introduced us to a global icon in 50 Cent. We wouldn't have the show Power. We wouldn't have the Power franchise. We wouldn't have so many things that happened in hip hop if not for 50 Cent and the tour de force that he is as an artist. I think he's the greatest hook writer in hip hop history. He ushered in a whole new sound, or his delivery and his sound, and it's something that, again, was brought in by this album. This album introduced us to him. He had end-to-end bangers with it. He showed his talents could go on for other features, and he could enlist his talent into other artists. He could go into the film side of things. He recently showed us that he could do a 20th anniversary for this album and sell out arenas. It's really amazing, man. 50 Cent doesn't get enough credit in the sense where I know he's looked at as a villain for some people, but I don't feel like 50 Cent gets enough credit as being hip-hop's greatest comeback story. I think him and Kanye definitely have that in common. 50 Cent in his previous deal with Columbia, getting into I don't want to say getting into, having the misfortune of having to, deal with being shot that many times, being dropped by your label at the same time, and then having to make a real recovery, and not only make a recovery from that for life, but you were able to make a recovery, take it to the street with mixtapes, get you a record deal, and not only get the record deal, and have the pressure of, getting a cosign from Eminem, Dr. Dre, and the rest of the Interscope family, but you actually delivered. You delivered on this album, and I don't want to say with minimal help, but it wasn't like this album was littered with people who were basically making the songs for him. All of these records, you could tell were genuinely 50. 50s coming through on the hooks. When you go back and listen to Get Rich or Die Tryin', the hooks that he's giving himself on all of these records, man, it's like he's doing all these hooks. He's not bringing in the hottest rapper at the time to come in and do the hooks or whatever. No, he's doing all of these hooks. He didn't do 21 Questions, but that's Nate Dogg. And honestly, you could hear his influence even on that. And so, yes, the number one reason why Get Rich or Die Tryin' is the greatest hip-hop album of the 21st century is because it gave us a global icon in 50 Cent, who was an extremely talented artist, extremely talented entrepreneur, and somebody who has shown us that he definitely has made his mark in this hip-hop game. Now, I dare anyone in the comment section to be able to find an album in hip-hop in the 21st century that gives you all of these things. This is a game changer on so many different levels. It gave us a global icon, gave us incredible, memorable features that led to other careers. It gave us the battle. It gave us street anthems. It gave us commercial singles. It gave us commercial impact. It changed the way people moved out here. It also, was a great album from end to end. So if you can find me at least 5 albums that we could say all of these things for, I would concede and say, you know what, maybe I'm tripping. But other than that, find me a hip-hop album that gives me all of those things. And Rolling Stone putting this album as the 40th best hip-hop album of the 21st century, you should be ashamed of yourself. And you need to explain yourself as to why. I'm not afraid to get in front of the camera and explain why I feel the way I feel. I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Get Rich or Die Tryin' is the best hip-hop album of the 21st century. It is. And I was like, let me go ahead and articulate those points. So I would challenge anyone at Rolling Stone to articulate why Get Rich or Die Tryin' is the 40th best hip-hop album of the 21st century. I would love for them to articulate why Tyler, the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost is ranked higher than 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Please, I challenge that. And, you guys challenge them as well. Hit like and subscribe. And like I said, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, hit me in the comment section. And if you do agree, hit me in the comment section. Let me know if I'm tripping or whatnot. But congratulations to 50 Cent for, reaching nearly 1 billion streams on YouTube and being New York's #1 rapper, even in the streaming era, probably in the physical and in the streaming era. It's an incredible accomplishment. And regardless of how people um, feel about somebody's music or somebody, we gotta congratulate the accomplishments. We can't understate people's accomplishments out here in this game. Congratulations to you, 50. And again, I feel like Get Rich or Die Tryin is the greatest hip hop album of the 21st century. And those are my 10 reasons why. All right.